began to rise. The Zyron sensors picked up whispers of magnetic fields, subtle alignments of hull plating. The derelicts were not still. Scholars argued it was residual power, some decaying reactor finally giving up its last. Others speculated it was scavenger trickery, pirates attaching modern cores to old frames. But the readings kept growing. And then came the signals. Not distress beacons, not data requests. Command codes. Ancient, encrypted in Terran ciphers thought long lost. Codes that refused to be broken, refused to be dismissed. They cascaded through the void like heartbeats resuming after centuries of silence. When the dead stirred, the first ship to move was a dreadnought. The Zyron patrol watched in disbelief as its silhouette, massive, angular, unmistakably Terran, shifted against the starless backdrop. Engines that had lain dormant for ages ignited with a thunder that shook sensor arrays. Hull plating groaned as if in pain, then aligned with precise, calculated intention. One ship became two. Two became dozens. The graveyard was not a graveyard at all. It was a vault. Lines of battleships, cruisers, carriers, all awakening in perfect synchrony, their formation reweaving itself across the void. Each bore the scars of time, pitted armor, faded insignias, yet each moved with terrifying discipline. The Zyron sent hails, no answer. They broadcast warnings, no effect. They armed weapons. The Terran fleet maneuvered. Ships that should not have been able to fly outmaneuvered the Zyron patrol with ease. Their engines burned hotter, their shields held firmer, their weapons, archaic by appearance, tore through modern armor like it was tissue. The Zyron flotilla did not survive long enough to issue a full report. But fragments of their last transmissions reached the galaxy. And those fragments carried fear. The forgotten storm. Panic rippled through the great powers. The Vathian high scholars convened emergency sessions, their carefully maintained histories now unraveling in their hands. The Kalor warlords mobilized fleets, convinced the Terrans had returned for vengeance. The Vral consortium whispered of economic collapse. What market could survive if Terran industry reawakened? Theories flourished, none comforting. Had humans fled into hidden strongholds waiting? Had they built fleets so durable that they could sleep for centuries and still rise? Or had their machines endured where their species had perished, guardians of an extinct people's wrath? But when the relic fleet expanded, the truth became undeniable. It was not a handful of derelicts, it was armadas. Dreadnought lines, carrier groups, wings of fighters deploying with mechanical precision. Whole shipyards hidden in the folds of nebulae and asteroid fields, powered up as though no time had passed. And their command codes, their protocols, still held authority across networks thought to have long since surpassed them. Galactic defense grids flickered, recognizing the Terran signals as priority clearance. Entire sectors bent knee to the returning ghosts. The clash of eras. The first true confrontation came in the Othran Rift. A coalition of Vral and Kalor fleets, bristling with the most modern ships the galaxy could muster, moved to intercept. They outnumbered the Terran relics 3-1. They believed sheer volume would compensate for whatever strange vitality kept the ancient ships alive. But belief shattered quickly. The Terran dreadnoughts advanced with flawless formations, their weapons unleashing storms of kinetic fury. Rail cannons, archaic by modern standards, fired with such velocity that shields buckled instantly. Missiles, guided by algorithms honed centuries before, weaved through countermeasures as though anticipating them. Calor destroyers vanished in sheets of plasma. Vral cruisers, sleek and prideful, found their armor peeled apart by weapons the galaxy had dismissed as outdated. The coalition broke within hours. The survivors fled, leaving behind burning wreckage and a single truth etched into the stars. The relics were not obsolete. They were superior. The weight of realization. Word spread like wildfire. Entire systems reeled with fear. If Terran fleets, sleeping for centuries, could awaken with such lethality, what of the arsenals that remained undiscovered? What of the shipyards hidden deeper, more secret still? Whispers rose in every corner of the galaxy. If this is what they forgot, what have they remembered? If their derelicts can destroy us, what can their living build? Perhaps they were never gone at all. Scholars re-examined the archives with trembling hands. Old myths of Terran redundancy, of building not just one fleet but many, hidden, scattered, sounded less like exaggeration and more like warnings. They recalled the human saying recorded centuries ago, "We do not bury our weapons, we plant them." Now those seeds were sprouting. The silence breaks. The galaxy had lived in comfort, beneath the assumption that humanity was extinct. Now that comfort was gone. The stars whispered with the thunder of Terran engines. Old codes still bent networks to their will. Outdated hulls moved with predatory grace that mocked the sleek lines of modern warcraft. No emissaries came forth, no humans spoke. Only their fleets, their relics, their storms. The galaxy shivered. And in the silence, one truth remained, spoken in hushed tones across 1,000 worlds. Humans don't just build fleets, they preserve storms for the day they are needed. The forgotten enemy. The Council archives spoke of Earth as little more than dust, an ember long extinguished. The humans had burned themselves out, clawing for dominance in a galaxy that had no place for their violence. At least, that was the accepted truth. To the Karas Dominion, to the Syrinx Continuum, to the Vaer Collective, humanity existed only as an afterthought in records, marked by stubborn defiance and a refusal to yield, but ultimately forgotten. Their colonies had fallen silent. Their transmissions had ended. Their fleets, once notorious for reckless innovation, had vanished into obscurity. In the halls of galactic memory, humans were a cautionary tale, civilizations that fought too hard, lived too fast, and perished too soon. And yet, unease lingered. No one could explain why so many systems tied to humanity were marked as restricted zones. No one could explain why patrols sent near Sol never returned. The galaxy dismissed it as radiation, black holes, or cosmic accidents. Myths, whispers, nothing more. Humanity, they believed, was finished. Echoes in the void. It began on the outer rim of the Hither Belt. A merchant convoy intercepted a strange transmission. At first, the signal was dismissed as static, a jumble of tones distorted by ancient interference. But analysis revealed structure, mathematical precision embedded within. A code, a frequency, a language. The merchants, too superstitious to investigate, sold the data to the Syrinx Continuum's exploratory core. There, scholars traced the signal's cadence back to a source species long erased from the star maps: humans. Curiosity spread like infection. Scouting vessels were dispatched toward the abandoned Terran periphery. What they found unsettled even hardened explorers. Silent stations orbiting dead moons, hulls blackened but intact. Vast skeletal frameworks drifting in starless gulfs, yards the size of continents, rusted but still aligned in perfect geometric patterns. They were not mere ruins. They were organized, preserved, waiting. Deep scans revealed dormant cores buried within the structures, ancient reactors that should have long since decayed, yet pulsed faintly, like embers beneath ash. The fleets laughed. Humanity had clung to relics, it seemed, too primitive to dismantle properly. But in hushed tones, crews admitted they felt watched. Machinery hummed with no power supply. Shadows shifted across hollow decks. One scout captain swore he heard footsteps echoing through vacuum-tight corridors of a derelict station when no one had left the ship. The council was briefed, but they scoffed. Ghost stories, they declared. Human bones rattling in the dark. And yet the signals persisted, growing stronger. When the graveyard breathed, the turning point came with the Dathai's expedition. A fleet of 12 modern warships entered orbit around what records called the Uit Bastion, a derelict shipyard supposedly abandoned 5 centuries prior. Its rings stretched wide enough to cradle a planet, studded with skeletal docks where thousands of ships might once have rested. The Dathai's crews prepared scans, confident nothing would stir. But as their instruments probed deeper, something answered. At first it was vibration, frequencies so deep the hulls of their own ships began to tremble. Then came the heat signatures, reactors igniting where no fuel should exist. And then motion. The docks shuddered. Massive clamps disengaged, releasing titanic forms that drifted free with a predator's grace. Engines long silent flared into blue-white life, brighter than stars, illuminating hulls scarred yet unbroken. Human ships hundreds, no thousands. Their designs were archaic, yet brutal in efficiency, armor plating thicker than anything in modern use, cannons mounted on every axis, silos that bristled